Okay, let's say you want to make some change in the world. You're some kind of believer, but you don't really believe in making theology great again by legitimizing your own struggle with a good old white male God concept, nor do you believe in placing humanity once again at the center of reality, taking control of non-human reality. So what do? That's what I wondered before I encountered these two ladies. Varvara Stepanova and Liubov Popova. I write mostly about Popova in my recent book. The two Russian avant-garde artists, and they rethink art in a way that I want to try to rethink theology. This group called themselves Constructivists. They were part of the pre-revolution Avantgarde in Russia, later banned by the regime that was to come. In order to change society, to change the world, they thought you have to first get deeply acquainted with the elements that make up reality. Starting with the items of everyday life, with ordinary everyday life, trying to leave behind ideas of representation, representing divine or human truths, and instead study reality from within. To become not the master of the material, but the material's assistant. Becoming a thing among things, an active thing, yes, certainly, but not a dominant thing. That's where you have to start if you are to build a sustainable, equal and loving society, they thought. This photo kind of says it all. It's Varvara Stepanova holding a compass with which she's drawing optic silhouettes. She's completely focused on the task. She's a thing among things, an active thing, but not a dominant thing. The activity produces a pattern on the paper without her hand touching the surface. It's not about her human or artistic genius. It's about co-working with the material, the things that surround her. And that's why they didn't call themselves artists, but constructors. Stepanova is dependent on the instrument, on the material, and together the compass, she the constructor, and the pen and the paper, they make out a kind of constructing machine that replaces the genius creator idea with a mechanic, a co-worker, a cyborg kind of activist, to speak with Donna Haraway. So how does this relate to theology? How is it activist theology? Well, they got their inspiration from many places, of course, but one key source of inspiration was icon painting. The spiritual hands-on practice, which is a practicing of presence with color, with paint, with not controlling the image, but cooperating with it. The Constructivists, they left behind the patriarchal church and the male detached God from the icon tradition, but they brought with them the spiritual theological wisdom of changing the world from within and from below. The respectful relation to the material world. And I'm thinking that this is a theological wisdom partly lost. It's a political and ecological force in the history of theology just waiting for us. A kind of resistance that paves the way for a more than human kind of theological activism. And it can be practiced in thousands of different ways. And I believe actually that it already is. Because to speak with theological activist Henderson-Espinoza, we must learn to live our politics. We must live theology and ethics out loud. Henderson-Espinoza is one example of where this is already happening. And the Green Sabbath Project is another wonderful example. And I'm sure that you can come up with many more.